Lena and Sasa and everyone else who have put this on tonight. This is very, very good. It brings joy to my heart because this is one of many, many fundraising events that have gone on across Greater Manchester. In fact, I don't think anyone knows how much in total has been raised. But last week, I know the Syrian Society organised something. Today, I was petitioning in Chorlton, and there have been meetings and rallies and demonstrations all over Greater Manchester. But what I want to say is about this question of what is Zionism. And I want to bring to you my personal story as a Jewish person growing up in a small town, Northampton. And when I grew up, please.
Just an interruption, someone blocking someone who needs to go for an emergency. Car registration is KN5UCZ. White van. If you own it, please move it as soon as possible. And sorry for interrupting your meeting.
I want to tell a bit of a personal story, and I hope that it will bring to all of us here a wider understanding of how people change and how we can get the real change that we've heard about that is needed for the Palestinians. Is that better?
Yeah,
okay,
better.
Thank you. When I grew up, I found out when I was a young teenager about the Holocaust, and it had a profound effect on me to find that a third of the Jewish people that I was from had been killed, and been killed in such a mechanical and organised and industrial way in the heart of what was supposed to be civilization in Europe, in Germany, and I mean my relatives came from Poland. So for me, finding out about that was deeply distressing and shocking. And we had in our pantry a little collecting box with a Star of David on. And as a young person, we would put our pennies in. Because the story that I grew up with was that one day something horrible like the Holocaust could happen again. And we needed a safe place for Jewish people. And when I was a teenager, I helped raise money. I was active in the Zionist Youth Club, and we were raising money for buying land to plant olive groves and orange trees. But when I was 18, I went to Israel, and I went around, and it completely changed, just as Linda has explained, completely changed my whole understanding of the world. I had to find out a lot of information afterwards, but it changed me personally, because I went to Jerusalem, and I went to the Wailing Wall, the holy place of the Jews, the last wall of the Jewish temple. I went, and you could go then, you can't go now, onto the Dome on the Rock, and I saw when Muhammad had left the planet, left with his footprint, and I was there. And then I went to Bethlehem, because I wanted to go to where Jesus was born. And this is when I had a shock, because there was no bus to Bethlehem. You had to get a special bus from the Arab part of Jerusalem. This bus was a dirty bus. And I got on the bus, and I noticed it had bullet holes in the windows. And I thought, this is unusual, and I felt a little bit uneasy. And when I got to Bethlehem, and I went to the Church of Nativity, I heard these strange sounds, and I turned around, and there were armed Israeli, army people with guns inside the church. And that's when I knew that something deeply was wrong with the whole setup in Israel. Because growing as a young person, I wanted to be a better human being, and I wanted the world to be better, and for all of the religions to be side by side, and they are all there in Jerusalem. But the way in which one group, the Zionists, not the Jews, the Zionists, and I'll come on to this, have said that they are controlling that whole area and will determine whether people can go or not to the Holy Land is deeply, deeply troubling and is completely wrong. Now, what is this Zionism? I looked into it and found that the expression that it sums it up is for a people without a land without a people. The people without a land were the Jewish people. But this idea that Jewish people needed a special land of their own is a very, very new idea. In fact, it wasn't even a popular idea amongst the Jews. In this city, Manchester, the chemist Chaim Weizmann, at the turn of the 1900s, 1901, he led the Zionist organisation in the World Zionist Congress, and he said, the Jews, we need our own place, our own land. And you know, the Jews said, do me a favour, we want our own land. We don't want our own land. We're here. We're in Manchester. We've got jobs. We want a better stake in the world that we live in. And the Jews everywhere rejected Zionism. He wants to go and live in some godforsaken place in a swamp. You know, this is what people would say. You want to go somewhere? I want to go to New York. That's where people wanted to go, and most Jews in the world still want to go to those sorts of places. But things changed after the Second World War, when the Holocaust cast a huge shadow, the darkest shadow that could ever be cast. And in that shadow, the idea of Zionism, maybe we need our own place somewhere, that's where those ideas started to take hold. And that's why I was brought up in an ordinary Jewish family, and we collected for Israel. But I turned against the Israel notion, and I became a friend of the Palestinian people. Because for me, the Jewish message that I was brought up with, and I said the prayers at the synagogue on a Saturday, and I was ber-mitzvahed, it was for a better world for everyone. Not chosen this and chosen that, for everyone. All people in the world. And therefore, for me, the Palestinian brothers and sisters are my brothers and sisters. Absolutely. But there's an added thing, and it's about a key. Because my parents were from London. My grandparents were from Poland and Spain and Scotland and Ireland, and my great-great-grandparents were from Europe. I don't have any relatives anywhere ever from the Middle East. But because I'm born Jewish, the law of Israel has a law of return, which says any Jew anywhere in the world can go and live tomorrow in Israel, and I could go there tomorrow. But I have stood by the side of someone who has the key to their own house in Haifa and Jerusalem, who is Palestinian and cannot go back to their own land. So that law of return is a racist law, and it needs to be abolished. I want to end with a political perspective, because this is not about religion. We have all religions here. The Jerusalem is a city of all religions, and before 1948, before the Balfour Declaration, Jews, Christians, Muslims lived for hundreds, thousand years, no problem. It is a political solution that we need, because it is a political project, this Zionism. The Zionists, the land without a people for a people without a land. There were people there on that land, the Palestinian people. And the Israeli state was built on top of their land, and they were driven out, partly driven out because some are still there. So we need a different political arrangement for the whole of the Middle East. And this is where I think we should draw optimism, because for most of my life, the story has been poor little Israel. Now, that is no longer the story that people in the majority believe. Now people go, how could they do this? How can they do it? And why are they allowed to do it? They're allowed to do it because the people that give the arms to Israel and the money are the Americans, and less so, but also the British governments. Yeah. They're the people. Zionism, without the backing of America and imperialism, is like a knife without a blade. The Americans put the knife in it. And that means the Apache helicopters, the F-16s, the money, the diplomacy cover, and all the rest of it. Now, why we should be optimistic. Today I was with the Liberal Democrat MP, my MP, John Leach, in Chorlton, petitioning to say the BBC should show the appeal for Gaza.